Hi, I'm Angie Genford, and you're listening to How's That, the cricket podcast.
You messed about, I called you out. How's that?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of How's That, the cricket podcast with me, Ollie.
And me, Lily.
So, and a lot of cricket. We've just been speaking about this off. There's been so much cricket since we last released an episode. So we've got a lot to talk about before we get through to our interview. Our interviewee this week is Sixers young starlet Angie Genford. So she obviously played for the Hurricanes. She's now playing for ACT as well in the WNCL. She was great to talk to, and you'll be able to listen to that just after this. So we're going to start off with a bit of cricket, and where better to start than the T20 World Cup?
Yeah, it's been a bit busy, hasn't it? Like you said, lots of T20 World Cup, lots of WBBL. So do you want to just get us started with the World Cup?
Certainly can. So we started off with England-Ireland. That was the next game that was to be played since we last recorded. And Ireland obviously winning that one. Batting first, they were bowled out for 157. Beautiful knock by Balbirnie, who was absolutely quality. He made 62. Did the Irish captain. Was helped out by Lorcan Tucker, who made 34. Curtis Camphor made 18 off 11. And they did well. England actually did well to bring them back. Liam Livingston bowled really well, 3 overs, 3 for 17. But the rest of it, yeah, Mark Wood also took 3 wickets, but the rest was a little bit average. Chris Wokes didn't have his best game, but you know those can happen. And England were probably going to win this game if not for the rain. We started awfully. Second ball, Josh Buttler was removed without scoring, and David Milan was moving along at a snail's pace. But Moeen Ali looked absolutely brilliant, and probably if it went an over or 2 more, we probably would have won that game. But obviously it didn't. We lost. It wasn't great. But that was what it was. That was meant to be a double header at the MCG. Of course, the second game got abandoned without a ball being bowled. That, of course, being Afghanistan and New Zealand, who had both of their games at the MCG rained out. Did Afghanistan, you had South Africa then beating Bangladesh, India beating the Netherlands, Zimbabwe beating Pakistan, and of course you had Afghanistan, Ireland, Australia, England, both rained out without a ball bowled, which was absolutely gutting that we didn't get to play Australia. It probably worked out for us being England, of course, that was rained out, because I think that would have been a better result than us losing, of course. But being there at the MCG that night, waiting for cricket and not getting any cricket was pretty horrible, to be honest. But it is what it is. And then you had wins for New Zealand, Bangladesh, Pakistan, South Africa over India, which was crazy. And then we had Australia, Ireland the other day. So Australia were brilliant. They won in the end by 42 runs. Ireland actually did well to make it closer than it was. It was a brilliant knock by Tucker again, who was good against England, brilliant against Australia. He made 71, but in the end it wasn't enough. They had to fight back from 25-5, Ireland were at one point. After 4 overs, they were 25-5. Australia setting up the win nicely. Aaron Finch making 63. Marcus Stoinis with a nice 35. Glenn Maxwell as well, who made 13 off 9. But, it was a decent game for Australia, a good one for them to win. Obviously, you'd expect them to beat Ireland, as you would have expected England to beat Ireland, but they didn't. Shock, of course. But obviously, good win for Australia there. There was, finally starting to get a move on. Sri Lanka then beat Afghanistan in the doubleheader. The start of the doubleheader at the Gabba. The second game, of course, being a massive win for England. A massive win that keeps us alive in the tournament. Josh Buttler making a really well put together 73. Alex Hales making a 50 as well, getting us to 179 for 6. And I thought we were going to throw it away, because that's what England seemed to do. Glenn Phillips was dropped on 15 by Moeen Ali, went on to make 62. I thought that when Moeen Ali dropped that, I thought we were in trouble, but we did well to claim the win that keeps us in it. Of course, we've got a massive game coming up as well against Sri Lanka. Win that, we probably go through. Australia play Afghanistan tomorrow as we record this. That'll be on the day of when this is released. This is going out on the Friday, so it's going to be the day of. So if Australia then lose that and England win, we go through, simple as. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this World Cup closes out.
Yeah, so then the last 2 games that have been played recently was Zimbabwe, Netherlands, and India and Bangladesh, which was the doubleheader at Adelaide Oval. I impulsively bought $20 tickets the day before. I wasn't planning on going, but then we decided on going. Zimbabwe, Netherlands, a really close game. Netherlands, you'd think they could have knocked off that total quicker than they did. They really struggled towards the end. They needed 3 runs off 24 balls, and then they needed 2 runs off 18 balls, and then they needed like 1. It was very slow. It was a very slow chase, but they hit a 4 to win. Anyway, Max O'Dowd did really well, 52 off 47. Then Tom Cooper, 32 off 29. Then, scores here and there, but nothing too big. Really good bowling from Paul van der Meekeren with 3 2 from Brandon Glover, and then 2 from Logan Van Beek, and another 2 from Bas Delade as well. So yeah, really good performance put together by the Netherlands team. Like I said, could have probably chased that down a bit quicker, but they had time to do it and they managed to do it with 2 overs to spare. And then India and Bangladesh, that was absolutely mental. Now, it started raining and me and mum was sitting there and we're like, let's just go. So when it stopped raining, we left because we were tired and I needed to drive home. So we watched the rest of it in the car on the way home. I didn't, mum did. So yeah, it was an interesting game for sure. It didn't look like Bangladesh were going to chase that target down in the limited overs. India only won by 5 runs. They needed 6 to win off the last ball. Didn't do it, unfortunately. But yeah, no, good performance from India and a good total they put up on the board. 184 off 20 was pretty good. But yeah, the crowd was so loud. I've never experienced anything like it. It was absolutely insane with how loud the crowd was that night. But yeah, good performances all round and good games to see.
Yeah, Indian fans have got a reputation of being absolutely wonderful. Like the one thing, I've obviously watched a lot of cricket. The one thing that I would have loved to do more of and love to keep doing more of is going to watch India play, because their fans just make it a spectacle. Obviously, they're good on the field too, but off the field, Indian fans are absolutely wonderful. And when you've got knocks like Virat Kohli making 64 or 44 and the knock the other week at the MCG, it's going to be crazy. So props to Indian fans who keep turning out. There's been a lot of Indian fans not even going to watch India. They've been going to watch neutral games for them. So, they've really done brilliantly this World Cup and hats off to them. But obviously it was a great game, wasn't it? Lytton Das making a really nice 60 off 27, got run out, and that probably halted any chance that Bangladesh had of winning it. It would have been a massive upset had they got over the line, but they didn't quite. And we move on. Obviously, as we're recording this, there's a game today between Pakistan and South Africa, and then the doubleheader, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Afghanistan, before England play Sri Lanka to round out Group 1. We've got a couple of Group 2 games, Netherlands, South Africa, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, Zimbabwe before the semi-finals and the final 13th of November, hoping the rain stays away because I'll be there. There is a reserve day. So hopefully we don't need it. Hopefully we can just go to the cricket and there'll be 40 overs bowled, but Melbourne being Melbourne, there'll be some rain somewhere.
Yeah, I thought we were safe being in Adelaide and it not rained all day, and then all of a sudden it started hammering down at night. So nowhere's safe, and especially not Melbourne with the rain you're having at the moment. But to move over to the WBBL, there's been a lot of games. So we're just going to quickly run through our teams and then tell you the scores of the other teams. So the first one on the 27th of October being Strikers against Heat at Allen Border Field in Brisbane. Adelaide Strikers setting 140 off their 20 and Brisbane Heat all out of 109, which was a pretty mental game to watch. So Strikers winning by 31 runs. Nice to see. And then the Strikers played the second day in a row. Scorchers batting first, setting 111. Strikers chasing that down with ease. Fourth 112 off their 18.3 overs, so winning by 6 wickets. Then the Hurricanes and Sixers, really interesting game. Hurricanes 8 for 95 off their 12, and the Sixers winning by 8 wickets ended on 2 for 96 off 10.5. Then the Stars versus Renegades. The Stars made a bit of a mess of this, didn't they? They only needed to get 92 to win. And they did it in the 17th over, made it look a bit tricky, lost some early wickets, but managed to chase it down eventually. They were 4 for 92 in the 17.3 over. And then the Scorchers versus Heat. So Scorchers batting first, setting 140, and then the Heat ended up on 137. So Scorchers winning by 3 runs. Then it was Sixers and Renegades. Sydney Sixers batting first, scoring 3 for 188. Pretty big score there. And Renegades nowhere near managing to chase that down. The Sydney Sixers winning by 37 runs. Then there was a couple of washouts. Stars and Thunder, no result. And then Strikers and Stars, we won't talk about that. And then...
Surely, come on.
No.
We have to. You're not getting away that easy.
Look, like I said, I spoke to my mum about this and she said, look, it really was Strikers' game to lose. And it, like, obviously, credit to Stars for winning, but it was more so about the Strikers losing it because it was just really poor fielding from the Strikers. So a good score by Katie Mack, 47, Laura Wolvaert, 30, Bridget Patterson, 41. But other than that, couldn't really get going. Deandra Dotton, 3, not really what you want to see in an international. But on the other hand, Jemima did the same. She got out for 8. So a good performance by Lauren Winfield-Hill with 47. Alice Capsey, 49, so close. Tess Flintoff got 51 not out off 16 balls, breaking a record there. and Kim Garth got 11 off 8. So yeah, like it was a good performance by the Stars, but it was strikers to lose, really. It was, like we said, poor fielding, let a lot of boundaries through, let a lot of things through their legs, which is, not what you want to see. But yeah, I mean, not much else to say on my behalf, I don't think.
Well, I just think like more credit has got to go to the Stars, because we've obviously gone there and won a game of cricket, highest WBBL score ever for the Melbourne Stars, 186 for 5. So a lot of credit just has to go to the Stars, and I'm obviously saying that as a biased Stars fan, but obviously Winfield Hill, Capsey, both just falling short of making 50. Tess Flintoff then did. It was absolutely mesmerising. She was hitting the ball to all parts of North Sydney, which was quality. Got slightly concerned towards the end of the strikers' batting innings. Obviously, Bridget Patterson and Maddie Penner were playing brilliantly. Katie Mack put together a nice 47, but we were never really under too much trouble of losing that game once we put it on the board. Sasha Maloney with 4 wickets as well. So the first How's That WBBL derby that has ever been in existence since I've come on the podcast has gone the way of the Stars.
So then going on to the game played last night, it was the Sydney Smash. Sydney Sixers setting 163 for 6 off their 20 overs. Good score again by them. They're doing pretty well. And then Sydney Thunder weren't able to chase that down, ended on 7 for 148. They put up a good fight with Sammy Jo Johnson making 22, Rachel Haynes 37, Chloe Tryon 32. Hannah Darlington made her return, which was amazing to see. I'm so glad to see her back out there. But on the bowling side, Ashley Garner took 3 wickets for 22, Lauren Cheetle took 3 for 21, and Sophie Eccleston took 1 for 38. So yeah, it was just a good performance by the Sixers. Ashley Gardner was player of the match with her 3 wickets and 53 runs off 37 balls. A nice little cameo from Maitland Brown with 29 not out off 21 balls. But yeah, a good win for the Sixers, which puts them to the top of the table. So the table sees us currently as Sixers in first, Scorchers in second, Strikers in third, Brisbane Heat in fourth, Stars in fifth, Hurricanes in sixth, Thunder in seventh, and Renegades in eighth. So an interesting table so far, but like we said, we've still got some games to go. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens after that. So do you want to introduce our guest for this week?
Yeah, sure. So our guest this week is Angie Genford, ACT bowler, formerly of New South Wales, of course, in the WNCL. Also now playing for the Sixers after moving across from the Hurricanes. So yeah, she was wonderful to talk to. She talks about her journey starting cricket, her time with New South, and also her current season with the Sixers so far, in which she has really broken out in the WBBL, playing consistently for the team in Magenta. So enjoy the interview with Angie Genford now.
Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. Do you mind telling us where you are at the moment and what teams you're kind of associated with at this point in time?
So at this point in time, I actually live down in Canberra and play with ACT Meteors, but at the moment I'm with the Sydney Sixers. So for the Big Bash, I'm living up in Sydney for 2 months.
So how's that travelling wise for you? How have you been, darting in between different states? And I know you've travelled to Mackay and then you've been down to Adelaide and we're back up to Sydney, Ballarat maybe. How's that all been for you?
Yeah. Look, I'm scared of planes, so the travel kind of does freak me out a bit, but it's been it's quite hectic because it's hard to get a routine, but it's been so cool to go around to all different places.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now we will obviously get back to Sixers stuff a little bit later on, but how did you first get into cricket? How did that all come up for you?
Well, my dad played when I was younger, and then when I was at primary school, a lot of my friends played, so I played minis with all the boys that I went to school with, and I eventually went into girls cricket maybe around when I was 12 and played girls reps, but it was mainly my dad that got me into it.
Yeah, we've found that that's kind of like a pattern with most of the people we've spoken to. It's like, older brothers, dads who have usually I don't actually think we've spoken to someone who hasn't got in through their parents. So
my mum actually played for a bit. So my mum played for a bit, but I feel like it's different now. Like I spoke to a girl yesterday and she's like, oh, I've started playing because my mum plays.
Right, yeah, okay.
I love that. It's so different now.
Yeah, no, that's great. And did you have any specific cricket role models growing up?
I really, really liked Michael Clarke when I was growing up. I just found it like I did I don't know what it was. I think I just whenever I watched them, I wasn't a huge watcher of it when I was younger, but I just love the way he batted.
Yeah, nice. And then moving on to indoor, how did you transfer over to that? Where did that come into it? And why did you like playing indoor cricket?
Well, actually, a few of my friends played, so it was just kind of Sarah Turner, one of the girls, got me into it. And it was fun. It was quick. It was another chance to play some cricket in the winter.
How did you find it with the difference between outdoor? Because I know a lot of people don't want to go into indoor because they think it's going to like mess up their outdoor game. The people I played with never found that an issue. So what did you make of that? Did that ever come up for you?
See, I was never good at indoor shots or indoor rules, so I just kind of played it like it was outdoor. I can see where some people are coming from, but I feel like it makes you play the ball a lot later, so I feel like it could actually help your outdoor a bit.
Yeah, I think it's the quick reflexes, and that is definitely a thing that
Oh,
you can learn from indoor, which a
yeah.
lot of people don't realize.
So moving on back to outdoor cricket, obviously you came through the ranks at New South Wales. Obviously you were born there, and New South Wales is probably seen as by many as perhaps the best state pathway for cricketers to go through in both men's and women's cricket. How did you progress through the New South Wales pyramid to eventually be selected for the state side?
Well, I played my 13s. I think it was like we had 13s till 18s academy. And then my last 19s, just before I'd finished, I was training with the Breakers. So what I think they do really well at New South, they kind of give you that exposure with the state side. So a lot of us got to do a lot of net bowling, a lot of fill-in training, which kind of worked out well. And then, yeah, I trained them with the Breakers for a bit, and then they had a few injuries, so I got to play, which was pretty cool.
So if we go back to your New South Wales debut then, how much of an honour was that to put on the New South Wales shirt for the first time and represent them at that level?
It's pretty cool. I mean, when you're 12 and you start the academy, I think that's everyone's end goal. It was actually quite surreal. It kind of took me a few weeks to actually realise I played for them. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, was it one of those things that sort of just set in, like took a while to set in, you know, you're one of those where it's like, you know, I can't believe I'm actually doing this. I can't believe this is actually real.
Yeah, there was a point where I was batting. So I was batting with Lauren Smith. And then I just kind of like looked over and I was like, oh, like I'm actually playing for the Breakers right now. It's kind of one of those moments like if 12-year-old me could see me now.
Yeah, that makes sense, obviously, because you're doing something pretty incredible there. But for that debut, you were presented your cap by Erin Burns, who's obviously a wonderful player. What was that experience like? And being surrounded by such a great team as New South Wales are, you know, how did that help you sort of come to terms with the fact you were playing for New South Wales?
All the girls there are quite lovely, and a lot of the younger girls I played my underage stuff with, and quite a few of the older girls actually played at my grade club. So Erin Burns is actually a Bankstown girl, so it was actually quite lovely to get my cap off her, and like they had such a great environment there.
Yeah, well, it definitely looks like it with you know, they say the environment is the helps create success, and New South Wales have had a lot of success, so that makes a lot of sense. But if we do move back to Big Bash temporarily, obviously you came through the ranks at New South Wales, but you started Big Bash with the Hurricanes, or you played one game for the Hurricanes last season. Obviously opportunities were somewhat limited, but how nice was it to sort of, you know, finally get that chance, and how determined were you to take it?
Oh, it was exciting. I think it's more like the experience that you get from Big Bash, like you're around such big players that have played so much cricket and a lot of international cricket. So I think any opportunity be even just to be around those girls.
And obviously you would have learned quite a lot from that season, obviously, you know, being around the squad, not just playing, but also, you know, being surrounded with that team. What was the main thing you took away from your stint with Hobart that you can take on to hopefully what is a glittering career?
I think the way that the girls go about their cricket, I think like you can tell like they go in with a plan, they get stuff done, and I think they're very clinical in the way that they go about things.
And I've seen like little pictures and stuff that you spent a lot of time with Macy Gibson now, because she was obviously out for injury. So while you were maybe not playing and while she wasn't able to play, did you learn certain things from her? Did she teach you little things here and there? If so, was there anything that you picked up in particular?
I think Maisie is just someone that's so positive and she has such a great outlook on life. And she's someone that is great in like creating a culture of like such a friendly environment. And then she took me under her wing there, which was really quite helpful. But yeah, it was amazing to see that even though she was injured, like she still put in 100% all the time and she was still there for everyone. which I really admired.
Yeah, and she's back out there now. So obviously, you know, all
Yeah.
the hard work paid off. It's great to see her back out there. And then obviously moving on to this season, like we said, signed for ACT in the WNCL. How has that been so far for you this season? How have you found it with the ACT squad?
It's been really cool. It was a big move to move out of home, but the girls have been really great. It's a bit different from New South, but it's been quite refreshing to have a new start.
How did that opportunity come up? Do you know, like, you know, how you got the call, and then what were the sort of things that you had to go, all right, this is what I'm going to be leaving behind? You know, I mean, like, how did that kind of work out for you, and what was your mindset around moving from New South Wales?
Yeah, well, I had some offers to move for cricket, and then it was a lot of just sitting there talking to a lot of people. Like I caught a lot of my good supports at New South, like Hannah Darlington, who had some good chats with me and had some good advice for me. But at the end of the day, I was like, I want to be able to play cricket. So any opportunity I can get, it's worth it.
Yeah, and it must be nice to know that they trust in you, and they want to sign you, and they want to bring you over. So how does that feel to be wanted by this ACT squad, and to be able to play for them as well? How has that been, actually being in the squad, playing consistent games?
It's been pretty cool. It's a nice feeling when someone backs you. Even though it's still, I feel like I'm the little fish in a huge pond. It's still been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It has been a bit of a tough start for ACT so far in the WNCL, and it's obviously on pause until Big Bash finishes. So what are the main learning curves that maybe you personally or the squad has taken out of this first part and are going to try and either improve on or implement into the second half?
I think we are a younger squad, and I think looking at other sides, how many games, like experience-wise, we haven't played a lot of games. So I think it's just what I think the team's learned. We've just got to adapt quicker, because a lot of these players can adapt very, very quick, and you've got to have a lot of plans, because everyone is quite smart with their cricket now. You can't just do the same thing all the time. So I think that's one thing, learning to adapt will be a big thing when we get back into it.
Yeah, and obviously it's quite a young squad, the ACT squad. So, it's understandable how it's not been easy, because you've got, obviously players who haven't played a lot of cricket at that level. But how nice is it to be able to grow with the team? Obviously, you've got players across the league who are really quite experienced. But how nice is it to say, well, right, we've got this young team, we're all learning together. How nice is it to be on that journey, in a sense?
It's exciting. It's exciting to think where the team could be in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, to see the growth, like even the growth that we've had through pre-season. It's exciting to see how it will go in the next few years.
Yeah, and obviously, with that kind of an answer, you clearly see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, which is a positive thing. Is there sort of a team goal to set in the next 3 or 4 years, like we're going to win X amount of games, or we want to push for the title? Is there, has there been something set out yet, or is it more just, we're just going to focus on the present?
I think improvement. I think as much as you want those outcomes will come if the team improves as a whole. So I think seeing if everyone can play their best cricket.
Yeah, well, obviously, when you're down the bottom end, the only way to go is up, and it looks like promising signs for ACT cricket that in the future things are going to work out well. So you can definitely see from the outside that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's good to see that that's the same on the inside too. But what do you think is the main lesson you've learned from this part of the season? Obviously, there's been some positives that you can take from it as well. But what's the main thing you can say? Well, right, this is going to help me as a cricketer, or this is going to help the team grow. What's the main thing you've sort of taken away?
I think I knew this before, but cricket's a really hard sport, and I think it's a really grueling sport, I would say. And I feel like it's something that I've learned in the last few games, that you can't give up. You just got to keep putting in, and eventually it will pay off. And I think every game, like, you learn something, even though it might not be a good game. I think when you have a bad game, you actually learn more, gives you more to work on. So I think it's been a big learning experience the last few games.
Yeah, and obviously when you're in that sort of spot, sometimes losing and learning is the best thing, because I don't think you learn as much by winning. I think most people would say that too, but that's sort of something you can take out of it. But if we move on to, the second part of the season, as we talked about before, there's no Australian representatives in the ACT squad. And obviously a lot of teams will be impacted by the fact that a lot of girls are going to have to go away and play international cricket. But do you think that will be an advantage to sort of build chemistry while all those are away?
Yeah, I think it is helpful because we see the girls from pre-season to the end of season. It's the same group of us. So that can kind of help us bond as a team. And I think for other sides, like they still go about their cricket the same way. And I think we need to still go about our cricket the same way. But yeah, I think it definitely has some positives that our teams are around each other all the time.
Yeah. And obviously the best thing about that is obviously you're going to be around each other and you're going to learn how each other plays. Is that something you sort of got that chemistry building already, so that when you get into those periods, you sort of know how everyone's going to work and how everyone's game plays?
Yeah, 100%. We've learnt that in the pre-season because I think everyone goes about their cricket differently, which I find quite cool. But it's been really helpful that we all kind of know how each other works, so that when someone is in those hard spots during the games, everyone can support them.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then obviously on ACT, Katie Mack is the captain of the ACT squad. How has that been for you playing under her captaincy, and what's she like as a captain?
It's been amazing being under Katie. So I've actually played a few games with Katie back home, and her dad was my coach when I was younger. So it was quite cool going down and having Katie in. I think Katie is such an amazing captain, the way that she goes about the game. And she's so smart with her cricket, which I find is really cool. And it's good because she always backs us in, no matter what. She's always there to support you on the field. And I think like she's open to all the ideas, works really well with all our team. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's good. And also, so obviously with ACT, it doesn't have like a WBBL team. So majority of the players who play for ACT kind of spread out and play amongst the different Big Bash teams. So you being part of the Sixers now, how has that been to play against all your ACT teammates? And, what's it like to come up against them in matches?
Well, it's quite funny actually. So I got a coffee with Katie and she was saying to me, good luck, but like not too much good luck. And it's quite cool, like shaking hands at the end. You have a cheeky little smile with them, like I did with Kylie Leeson and stuff. It's quite cool.
Yeah, no, that must be. And then talking about the Sixers, this year you signed with them. It's a pretty cool squad. It's quite a star-studded squad when you think about it. So what's it like playing amongst so many talented players? Like you got Perry, Healy, Sophie Eccleston, just to name a few. What's it like playing with them and learning off cricketers like them?
It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. They're such lovely human beings as well, which I think makes it even better. And I think they're always open to questions, open to anything, which is really quite helpful. But their experience is just unmatched. Like them playing all their international cricket, it's cool to be able to just go up to them and ask for advice.
Yeah. And what's it like being around Sophie Eccleston? Because I know she's quite a character and within her team. So what's she brought to the team, and how have you found it being on the field with her?
As she would say, she's an absolute belter of a human being. Her accent is quite hard to understand sometimes, and she talks quite quick and mumbles a bit. So sometimes there's a few times where I just nod my head. But she is absolute great quality, and she comes out with the funniest one-liners. Even though sometimes we need to translate her. Anya's pretty good at that, so it works out well.
Well, that's it. You've got Anya and Charlotte Edwards as well to be like, right, this is what she said.
Yeah.
But talking about that, what's it like to be around Charlotte Edwards? Because obviously she is such a huge part of the female cricketing world at the moment, obviously huge success over in England. So what's it been like to be around her and her bringing Anya over as well? That must be pretty cool to play under such good coaching staff.
Yeah, they're amazing. And the way that they go about it is so cool. And I find that she just has so much knowledge that she wants to share, which has been really, really cool. And she's such a joyful coach as well, and she loves everyone having success, and she loves backing everyone in, which has been really cool.
Has there been anything in particular that you've maybe learned, or something that you've changed or gone about your game differently from learning from Charlotte and Anya maybe?
I think Anya was just saying to me, like, as long as you back yourself in positive. I think, like, I was talking to Anya about it, and she's like, when players back themselves in and don't go in there with nerves, you actually play to the best of your ability. So that's been pretty cool, because I think sometimes it does get a bit nervy walking onto the field.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then obviously talking about nerves, last night was the Sydney Smash. It would have been the first one for you, a win for the Sixers, which was probably lots of fun. But what was that whole experience like for you, and how did you find that game?
It was actually really cool because a lot of the girls from Thunder I grew up playing with as well. So it was cool to see them before the game, and I had a lot of family and friends that came down and watched, which was actually really quite nice. But North Sydney under lights, it was quite surreal again, and you get a bit nervous on the field. But it was so cool and it was so much fun, and we had such a great game and such a good win, which made the experience even better.
Obviously, like we say, it was your first Sydney Smash, and obviously winning it must have felt like an immense feeling. But was that sort of a different game to any others that you played? Was there sort of, did you feel like more pressure was on you because of the magnitude of the game, or was you just got it like it was just a standard cricket match?
I think playing like Sixers and Thunder there's always an element of, I don't know, I think it's just a little bit more competitive. Like you get a little bit more, feels a bit better when you beat Thunder, I think. But it was pretty cool to be around, like, I think being around family and friends, and then a lot of those Thunder girls we've all kind of grown up playing with, and some of the girls still do play with. So I think it just makes it a bit more exciting.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting conversation if you're just chatting to someone you play against the Thunder with, saying, we beat you, take that kind of thing. But that must have been nice having all that support with you. Obviously, because it's in Sydney, it's obviously both Sydney teams are doing quite a fair few people there, and obviously to have that support of your family and friends must have been really good.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I even had a few of my friends who have no idea what cricket is come down and watch, so it was quite cool.
Yeah, you've got to convert them new cricket fans.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job. But it was quite a good day for Women's Big Bash yesterday, certainly in mine and yours opinions, Angie. I don't know if Lily would say the same thing being a Strikers fan, but I suppose it is what it is. But yeah, it must have been obviously brilliant to see that game being played. But how nice is it, having the Women's Big Bash there? Obviously the Sixers at the moment, they're quite an esteemed club at that level, but how nice is it to sort of, pull on the magenta and represent them? You've played consistently this season. So how nice has that been, obviously, turning out for them, game in, game out?
It's been really fun. And I think I've learned so much, and I can't wait to continue to keep learning more and more. Even though every moment does feel a bit surreal. It's just so good. And I think they're such a supportive side from the coaching staff to all the players. So it's quite cool.
Yeah, and obviously with the Hurricanes, maybe didn't get as many chances as you perhaps would have liked. With the Sixers, that hasn't been the case. You've played really consistently. How nice has it been for the likes of Charlotte and Anya and those at the Sixers, to back you in and give you the chance to really express yourself? And how has that translated to your game? Do you feel like you've been given the real chance to improve because you've played more cricket?
I would say so, but I also think even when I don't, like when I'm not necessarily playing, I still learn quite a lot, which is really quite cool. So I feel like no matter if I turn up to training or games, and even if I'm on the sideline, I'm still learning, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, it's quite cool to be given the opportunity and backed by the coaching staff. And I think when you play your best cricket when you're backed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously, the Sixers, I think a lot of people were quite surprised at the start of the season because obviously they came last year, something that we weren't expecting because on paper it's such a good team. And then this year they've obviously really fought back and not coming last anymore and doing really well. So what's the kind of team morale been like around the girls? How has everyone found it? What are the team talks? Because I know we chatted to Stella and she said that last year they really dwelled on the losses. So how has that changed within this year, and what are some things that have been drilled into all your minds in order to win these games?
So I've actually got something Charlotte Edwards, and it's called Posy Vibes. So about like not whinging or whining, and I think the way that the team morale is at the moment is absolutely amazing, like how the girls are getting behind everyone. Even when we had that loss against Strikers, it was a good learning experience, and we didn't necessarily dwell on it. And the next game, we literally just worked on what we didn't go great in the game before. So I think it's just been constant improvement throughout the whole games. And I think when the morale off the field is great, it definitely translates onto the field.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's always good to have that positive energy because, like you said, it kind of let them down last year. So it's good to see that it's not getting into your heads this time and you're doing well. Do you reckon you can win it? Do you reckon you can go all the way with the Sixers?
I think everyone says that about every team, but of course I'd hope so.
Yeah.
I think we definitely have the side to do it.
Yeah. And you've got players in the past who have lifted that trophy many times. So I'm sure they're desperate to get back out there and lift that trophy. And it must be a pretty cool experience to know that they've done it. So why can't you? So out of all of the teams you've played for ever, all the squads you've been around, who has been your favourite teammate to be alongside?
I really did enjoy being around Maisie Gibson. Maisie has a special place in my heart. She was an absolute gem. But there's just so many that it's kind of hard to pinpoint one. Like Sophie Eccleston is so funny and it's been quite cool. I do love her accent, even though I don't understand her all the time. Yeah, it's hard to pick one, but there's been a few good ones.
That's good, cool. And then do you have a favourite cricket memory from, again, any team, any year, anything like that?
I think in the last 2 years, I've had a pretty cool different experiences. I think getting presented a few caps has been pretty cool. Getting my breakers, my ACT and Sixers cap have all been pretty amazing. And I think the speeches have just been so lovely, which has been cool. But then again, I also do really enjoy going back to my grade club and playing with a lot of the girls that I grew up with. So it's been kind of cool being back up in Sydney and getting to go back to grade training.
That's good. And then if you had to kind of set your mind either to the close future or the far future, what are your goals and what's kind of next for you?
Look, the way I go about my cricket is I think any opportunity is a good opportunity. And as long as I'm putting in, anything's possible, I think. So I think just keep grinding away at my cricket at the moment and focus on the next few games.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So not focusing too far in the future, you're just kind of going with as it is. That's very good. Now, we do like to just finish off our interviews with some quick fire questions, some cricket related, some not cricket related. So Ollie, I think you're going to take over these ones this week.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with a non-cricket related one. So if you're stuck on a desert island, you're stranded, what person would you like there, and what two things would you most want to have at your disposal?
Maitland Brown, she is really crafty, and I feel like I would survive if I was with her. Two things I'd have. Sunscreen. I get burnt really easy. And maybe like a toolbox for Maitland.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a smart answer. I like
Using
that.
your resources. Yeah, I like it.
So if you're in the last over of a game, say it's the 19th over, Sydney smash, and you've got to win a game, would you rather win it by hitting 3 sixes or taking a hat trick?
Hitting 3 sixes.
Yeah, nice. Favorite shapes flavour?
Or pizza.
Not a bad call. Don't mind it. Beach or backyard cricket?
Or beach cricket.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with that. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
What's your go-to pizza choice?
Oh, I love margaritas.
Okay.
Yeah, nice and solid. Very consistent. Can't go wrong. Orange juice or apple juice?
Oh, orange juice.
Nice. Full panel. Favorite cuisine?
Indian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely
Good.
yes.
Yeah.
If you are on a game show and you have to win $1 million, you've got to phone a friend for a chance to win $1 million. Who are you phoning and why?
Oh, I think I'd phone my friend Jada Arrington because she is very intelligent and just knows a lot of random facts.
Nice. WBBL cricket or WNCL cricket?
Oh, WBBL.
Is there a reason why?
Oh, I just find the atmosphere is really cool. Games are a bit shorter.
Fair enough. And the final one, bit of a how's that folklore kind of question. Is porridge cereal? Yes or no?
No.
You probably yeah.
Yeah. It's I mean, look, we don't know the official answer. We've tried Googling, we've tried looking it up, but we say no. So that's what we go with. But you'd be surprised by the answers we get to that question. It's been an interesting one. But yeah, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. All the best with the rest of your season. We'll be tuning in, we'll be watching. So thank you again.
It's lovely to see you guys. Thank you.
So that was Angie Genford of the Sydney Sixers. Wonderful to have her on, a wonderful interviewee. And it was interesting to hear her talk about the Sixers and how this season's gone. She hasn't played too many games in the Big Bash beforehand, only the one game for the Hurricanes. So it's really nice to see her get a consistent run at it with her new team.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to hear her talk about how much of a positive impact the new coaching staff has made with Anya Shrubsaw and Charlotte Edwards, and how much she's learning from the Sixers squad as well. It's really nice, and it's nice to see, a young player develop and improve throughout the years. So yeah, really good to see her shine within the Sixers squad. Like you said, nice to see her get consistent games. Yeah, really nice to chat, and yeah, wish her all the best for all her upcoming endeavours within the cricket world. But next week, we will be back with another guest. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at howsthatTCP. You can send us an email at howsthatcricketpodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave a rating on Spotify, which would help us out a lot. But other than that, that is all from me this week.
That's all from me as well. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this week of cricket.
How's that? You missed the